What's up, New Beginning Church? Happy Tuesday morning to you. Welcome back to our devotional series, our walk through the book of James. It's Tuesday, so maybe pause, go read James chapter 2, come back to us. Our devotions today are in James chapter 4, and they really jump off of yesterday's devotion where James begins to address the idea of how do you handle conflict? Like, why are you in battles and arguments and conflict all the time? And he says something that's so simple but so brilliant. And again, we talked about this yesterday. Every time I'm angry and ready to fight and in conflict, I can ask myself, why am I so angry? It's because I didn't get what I wanted. And so we talked yesterday about I might want to reevaluate my wants, because it could be that my wants are wrong. And if my wants are wrong and then I'm not getting what I wanted, I'm getting angry for no reason at all. But he continues on after that, and I think gives you, I'm going to say 4 good ideas that we're going to cover today through Friday that really help you resolve conflict. So again, the scripture begins, he goes, why? Or where do battles and fights come from? Do they not come from your desires for pleasure that war in your members? You want and do not have, right? So a few verses down, though, he says this in verse number 6, but God gives more grace. And therefore, he says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And let me repeat that again, because actually that's a lift from the Old Testament. That's a lift from 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 5. So you can take this one to the bank. This is a repeated scripture worth meditating on. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. One of the most important ingredients I can give you in terms of being able to handle conflict and resolve conflict or to avoid conflict. The first one we're going to talk about really is just having a spirit of humility about you. And this is something I personally wrestle with because I'm a highly competitive person. I like arguing. I like debating. I don't mind conflict. I kind of enjoy it a little bit. And I'm like, that's not good. And so I find, though, that a lot of times in my arguing and debating and wanting to get into a conflict, I might win the argument, but I lose the friend. I win the debate, but I lose the person I'm trying to influence. And it's like, what a waste. I've missed the point. And humility is the key. Humility tells me a few things. Let's go through this. Number 1 is this. Humility tells me I don't have to be right. My arrogance says, Todd, you've got to be right. Even when somebody's making a better argument or presenting to you facts and information that you didn't even previously have. But arrogance says, I need to be right. And humility says, no, you don't have to be right. It's all good. You're at peace with not being right. You're at peace with not winning. And I think I've shared this with you before. I'm competitive, so I want to win. But I've noticed this about me. Even more than winning, I just hate losing. That's actually a bigger sting than the joy of winning. And so humility says, hey, it's okay. You don't have to win. You don't have to. Arrogance says, you got to win at all costs. Even if you demolish that other person, you've got to win. Humility says, you don't have to win. Humility says, hey, I don't have to make it about me. Let me just sit here and consider you, think about you, make it about you, encourage you, help you. Again, think about being a peacemaker, not a peacekeeper. Peacekeeping is sometimes avoiding conflict. Peacemaking says, hey, let me not make it about me. Let me make it about you. How can I bless you, serve you, help you today? Let me just be there for you. Humility says you can listen. Whereas usually in conflict, let's be honest, we're not listening, we're speaking and we're arguing, and sometimes we're even getting louder. And so humility just says, oh no, I'm happy just to listen. What's your point of view? What is your thought? Hey, humility says, maybe I was wrong. And sometimes I'll do that in conversations. I'd be like, hey, just so you know, is there something that I've done wrong? Because I go into every argument and conflict with somebody assuming some percentage of this issue is my fault. So let me begin there, right? Arrogance would say, hey, let me focus on what percentage you did wrong. Humility says, hey, let me focus. Hey, where did I say that wrong? Did I misspeak? Did I do something to offend you? So anyway, we talked about this when we talked about wisdom last week. One of the things that wisdom was described as in James chapter 3 is willing to yield. Humility. Where does that come from? Humility. Humility says, hey, I'm willing to admit if I was wrong. I'm willing to apologize even if I was wrong. And then lastly, I'll give you this. Humility says I can let it go after the fact. Because some of us, in our arrogance, we can feel like, you know what, I'm mad because maybe we didn't win the fight, we didn't win the argument, so we're going to hold a grudge. We're going to hold on to some anger, hold on to some bitterness. And humility says, hey, you can just let it go. Like, who cares? It's not a big deal because it's not about me. It's about God, His purpose and plan in my life. It's about others. Like, that's what it's really all about. And so anyway, I want to encourage you today that if you find yourself as a person who constantly is surrounded by drama and conflict and argument and debate, I can guarantee you that there's not a spirit of humility in how you lead yourself into those conversations, how you lead yourself into that conflict. And so anyway, let us be a people, again, this so powerful. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So the very first thing that he points to after he talks about why you're in conflict is the idea of humility. And so church, I love you guys. God bless you. Let us go be a humble people today. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow.